Hi guys, and welcome back to the Emily Knits channel. My name is Emily. I am a knitter and crocheter in my mid to late 30s, based in the north of Nottinghamshire, in the very north of Nottinghamshire in the UK. I live with my husband and our 2 dogs, close to the border with South Yorkshire. I am back with a podcast. I wanted this to be like a July wrap up, but we're on the 10th of August. I think we're on the 10th. Are we on the 10th? What's the date today? 10th of August. So yeah, I'm a bit later than I wanted to be, but here we are. I wanted to film earlier in the weekend. There is a reason I didn't film earlier in the weekend. I will talk about that when we get to it because it is a finished object. But yeah, we're back. I think this is what I'm going to aim to do moving forwards, is every month do a podcast episode for you to update you on where I've been, what I've been doing. And then if I've got any other videos I want to film in between that, I will stop them in between. I have 4 finished objects to share with you today. 4 plus a half finished object. I've got a lot of new things, as always, to show you. A lot of new cast-ons and lots to get through, so let's get going. Before I forget, I always do, where can you find me? You can find me on Ravelry, Instagram, email and Ko-fi, all of which are down below in the description box. I have a wish list on Ravelry if you'd like me to buy me a pattern. I'll be completely honest, I haven't updated my wish list in a long time, so I probably need to go through and check that and see what it actually does. But if you would so wish, Ravelry and Ko-fi are there. Anything on Ko-fi that anybody donates to me goes straight back into the channel. Or actually moving forward, I would really like to buy myself a spinning wheel. So anything that goes on there, that goes on Ko-fi, will likely be put towards that. So thank you in advance if you do donate anything on there, but please don't feel obliged to. You absolutely don't have to. A couple of quick disclaimers up the front before we get started. First off, I'm filming this quite early in the morning because it's been very hot here again in the UK. We're due to have another heat wave this afternoon. Despite the fact that I'm filming quite early in the morning, the builders have started out the back. I don't think I really explained that very well last time. I live on a new build estate. They are still building houses just across the back of where we are. And whilst they're not super close to where I live, they can, if they're up on the house, on the scaffolding, they can see directly into the window, which is what was throwing me off last time. I don't think they can see me as well as I can see them, but it was very definitely throwing me off. They do make noise. There is noise that sometimes picks up from them, so I'm really sorry if you can hear that. The other thing to say is I have some washing running in the kitchen just in there, and I don't want to shut the door because the dog's in there. I'd shut him out of the living room. So if that's picking up, again, speaking of dogs, plucking dog hair out, if that's picking up, I'm really sorry. It's just life noises. But yeah, with all that aside, let's get into the podcast itself. So 4 finished objects to talk to you about, 2 of which I've got, 2 of which I haven't. So let's talk about the ones I haven't got first, because let's just get them out of the way. So the first thing I wanted to talk about, you saw me on the podcast last time. I was working on the Agnes sweater vest by Bethany Lynn, which was a crochet pattern, a crochet and knitted pattern actually, which I'll pop some pictures up of here, and I'll pop some pictures of my finished item up here. I was making this as a sample for Jess of Skein and the Stitch. And I finished this sort of mid of the month, and it got sent back because it needed to go back in time for her to go to Flock over in, is it Seattle? Flock? It's America somewhere. I think it's Seattle. And she was going over to Flock, and she wanted to take it with her as a sample. She actually ended up wearing it. So I will pop in a picture from her Instagram of her at her booth that she's posted herself wearing the sample I made, which made me so happy. I made this in 5 colours of it's her Wuthering base. I think it's a BFL Mash and Blend. I will correct myself on screen if I'm wrong. And I think it's 50-50. It was a really lovely base to work with. So the pattern is a granny square sweater vest that's made up of crocheted granny squares, as you might guess, and they're joined together then using seaming actually, and that's a mattress stitch in that pattern. And then the ribbing, so there's ribbing around the neckline, ribbing on both of the armholes, and ribbing split hem across the front and back. All of that is knit ribbing, and I really like patterns that combine knitting and crochet. So that was really, really fun to do, and I really enjoyed doing it. It was very quick to knit. It was a very simple knit. It was very quick to make because it was knitting and crochet. It was a very simple pattern. A couple of notes on it. So I found it first off a little bit difficult to follow in some places. And I think that's just because of maybe her writing style, but just because of almost like the way the different sizes were laid out. Some of it was like, I can't even really think of how to explain it. Some of it was like everything was very separate. Others would be like sizes, XS, medium and 4XL do this, sizes this, this and that. But it wasn't always very clear where the different size bits were. They weren't bolded. I think they were italic, but that's not very easy to spot. Or I certainly found it not very easy to spot. So there were a couple of bits where I was like, oh no, have I followed the wrong size instructions? I don't think I did. There was one bit where I had to undo and redo because I'd misunderstood and I'd done it wrong on the seaming. So that was one thing. I didn't find it super easy to follow because actually I think the way that you adjust the sizing on it, if I remember rightly, is you make slightly different size granny squares. So you make either, I think mine were 4 rounds plus the joining row, plus the outside row, so 5 rounds, which was all done in the same colour. And I think some you made 4, some you made 6, and then others you made more and you had more around the sides. So there was a variety of different ways that you changed the sizes on it, and that I found a little bit hard to follow. The other couple of things were, so I altered it slightly. I didn't alter it much. You pick up the ribbon around the neckline, and I started with the neckline because I thought it'd be really interesting to see how much it was going to pull it in. First off, I really struggled to pick up the amount of stitches that she told me to, but I didn't think that was going to be too much of an issue because it said something like pick up this amount of stitches or an even number. So I got to the end, I think I had maybe like 4 stitches less, but it was an even number. I've just noticed, what is that that's reflecting off there? What is, oops, this is not, oh, you idiot. That's a button on my oh my days. I've just been thinking there's a big white, you can't see this. It's one of the buttons on my phone. Ignore me, it's going to be one of those days, ignore me. What was I saying? Yeah, so I only picked up like 4 stitches left, but I thought, you know what, 4 stitches, that's going to be fine. I'm just going to do this ribbon and I'm going to bind off and I'm going to be fine. I did I knit the amount of rows, so she tells you to do a certain number of rows and then bind off. She tells you to do a certain number of rows, then do 2 setup rows for Italian bind off and then bind off. She doesn't actually tell you to do that. She doesn't recommend a certain type of bind off in the pattern. She just says if working a sewn bind off, do these 2 rows to set up, or do the 2 setup rows first, and she lets you go and find that yourself, which I don't think is great. If you're going to have a bind off like that in there, you kind of want the how to do it anyway. That's my thoughts on that. I did the setup rows, and I'm glad I tried this because I did the setup rows and I just thought, oh, I'm really keen to see how this is going to sit when it's done, because the size that Jess had asked me to crochet, which I think was XL or 2XL, I can't remember, was the size that I would have made myself. So I thought, I'm going to try this on, I'm just going to see how it fit. It would not go over my head, like it wouldn't even go past here. The bind off was so tight and I only had 4 stitches left. 4 stitches less than she'd recommended. So I left it for then. I knew I was going to need to come back and do it, obviously, because if it won't fit over my head, it's not going to fit over Jess's head. I've got a slightly large head, but not to the point where like it should be getting to about here and stopping. So I thought I'm going to have to come back and do it, but I haven't got the energy to do that at the moment. I've got to unpick this tubular bind off that I've just done. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to go and do, I think I did the hem first, because that was just a nice, easy pick up, knit flat, roll rib flat, and then bind off. And I thought I'm not going to do the setup rows on this. I did 2 more rows of rib instead of doing the setup rows, so I got the same length that she recommended, and then I just did the normal same bind off. And I just compared and I stretched, and the difference, I mean, this got, no, this hasn't, so I can't on this one. This hasn't got tubular bind off. In fact, nothing I've got today has got tubular bind off. The difference in the amount of stretch I got from that, and then I tried to do it on the collar and it was like it just wasn't going anywhere. So I thought, you know what, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to rip it out. I'm going to re-pick up. I'm going to try and pick up the right number of stitches, and I'm also not going to do those setup rows. And that's what I did, and that made a big difference. Big difference. It fit over the head. It sat how it was supposed to, and I still didn't quite get the same number of stitches, but I think I got 2 less this time. And I thought with that and with the non-setup rows, that was the main difference. So then when I was going to do the edges, the armhole edging, I also didn't do the setup rows. And I don't think it looks that much different, honestly. If anything, I think it looks a little bit better without the setup rows, because you can see those slip stitches. You can see the yarn that you've carried it over. If you've not done the setup rows on a tubular bind up before, you will have got no clue what I'm talking about. But don't worry about it if you haven't. I just don't think I'm going to bother doing setup rows on a tubular bind off pattern in future. I think I'm just going to go straight into just doing the tubular bind off, knit 2 extra rows if I want that length, and then do the tubular bind off. So yeah, that was the alteration I made. I didn't make this alteration, but if I was to do it for myself, I would make an alteration. Now, first off, I would have added length. I think I have a picture where I tried it on myself. I didn't really have the thing that I had on underneath. It didn't really go with what I was wearing it with. So there is that to bear in mind. But also I'd need to add length, so I'd need some extra granny squares around the bottom. That would be fairly simple. The other thing, and I saw a lot of people commenting on this on the Ravelry projects, were that the armhole is very deep. So essentially it's all measured by number of squares, and I think it was like 3 squares down the body, and then your 4th row is the one that goes around the bottom, and you have 1 square that essentially forms the side of your jumper. But that meant that your armhole came down to like here, like really low, really low. And I'd seen a few people commenting on that in the Ravelry projects, and a few people had put in an extra square there and then just made a smaller armhole. And I think if I was to make it for myself, that's what I would do. It was a weird one, this. I loved making it. I think it looks so impressive, and I think as a sample it is brilliant. But equally, I look at that and I go, I just wouldn't wear that. I just don't think that fits in my wardrobe. I think it looks gorgeous as a displayed piece, and Jess looked great in it. It seemed to really suit her, but I just felt a bit out of sorts in it. It didn't feel like it suited me and my aesthetic. So whilst part of me, I finished it and part of me was like, I'm going to make one of these. I'm definitely going to wear this. I don't think I'd ever wear it, so I'm not going to make that. But it was a really nice pattern to knit, with those exceptions that just read carefully when you're making it. It's, in many ways, it's almost a beginner friendly pattern because it is quite a simple pattern, but I would say the way that it's written is not super beginner friendly. However, it was very fun to knit. It used less than 1 skein of each of the colours, and it used 2 skeins of the main colour, and actually there was quite a lot left of that second skein, I think, that I didn't use. So yeah, very light on yarn, DK weight. I think I used a 4.5mm hook to get gauge, and then a 3.5mm needle. I can't remember the needle size I used for the ribbon, but it tells you what to use in the pattern. Quick to make, fun to knit and crochet. Lots of ends to weave in because it's granny squares. Granny squares with a different colour on each round. But a nice pattern, and a very, very effective sample. Very effective sample. So that was the first finished object. The second one I am going to talk about briefly because I'm not 100% sure I can talk about it properly fully on here, but I think I can. I was doing another sample for 3rd Vault Yarns, Lola. This was an interesting one because Lola is a hand dyer. However, this wasn't in their yarns. This was in Malabrigo. Lola is a hand dyer but also a pattern designer. So I think all the times I've sample knit for them, it has been their own design and in their own hand dyed yarn. This time was their own design in Malabrigo Rios, which I've never knit with and I haven't worked with in a very long time. I've only crocheted with. I've only got 1 picture of this and it isn't great because I was on a bit of a rush sending it back. This was a very fun knit. This was a garter stitch. They called it a shawlette in the pattern, but I would say this was a shawl. It was big. Made from a big bar at the top, essentially, that had some short row colour work in. It's all garter stitch, so it had some short row colour work in the top, and you do that in 2 separate panels. So you do 1 bit and then another bit, and then you join them together in the middle, and then a big wing at the bottom in another contrast colour that you do with, again, it's knit perpendicular, is that the right word? So the garter stitch on the top bit goes across that way, and then the garter stitch on this bit goes down like that. So you've got 90-degree angle, basically. Keep my mouth where you can see it if you're lip reading. You've got 90-degree angle, basically, so you've got that difference there. I think this looks really effective. I could see using this. I did not like that pink colour at all, but you probably knew, if you've been around here before, you probably knew I was going to say that. I loved the green and the sort of minty colour, and the short row colour work was really fun to knit. Really satisfying. I've never done garter stitch short row colour work like that. I've done garter stitch short row shaping because I've made the emotional support chicken a couple of times, but I've never done garter stitch colour work like that, and I loved it. So part of me really wants to try a colour work pattern that uses that again and have a bit more of a go of that. It was very fun knitting garter stitch. It was knitting on 4mm needles. In fact, I think the pattern recommended more like 4.5 or 5. Yeah, the pattern recommended something like 4.5 or 5, and I originally started on that, didn't gauge swatch, my own fault, had to rip out and start again because it was too big. My gauge was off, so that was done. That used the best part of 2 skeins of the blue, I think, the dark blue, a little bit of 1 of the light blue, and 1.5 to 2 of the most of 2 of the pink. But fun to knit, very fun to knit. Was a relatively quick turnaround. Has been sent back, has been received. Lola's very happy with it. I have my yarn credit already from that. Lola is very good at getting you the credit very quickly. So I'm very generous again with it. So really, really happy for that. The skein and stitch I should have mentioned. Jess has really generously said she will dye me something up particularly if I want. And I wanted something from her Hamilton colourway, her Hamilton collection. So she's going to be dyeing me up an order from that specially, which is really nice. So that's coming at some point soon. I'm really excited for that. Yeah, so I haven't got that yet, but it's underway, and the 3rd vault I have already. Okay, they're the ones I haven't got. Now let's talk about what I have got. First off is what I am wearing. I love this. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. This you saw as a whip last time. This is the Sunburst tee by Hannah of Creative Anarchy Yarns. This is out now, and I can't highly enough recommend it. It's a really, really beautiful pattern. So this is a top-down circular yoke t-shirt with this beautiful, I guess it's lace, isn't it? But it isn't like open work lace. That goes all the way down the t-shirt. It is a t-shirt. I will pop in a picture of it full length so you can see, but it goes to just above my hip basically, and then it's got this. It's essentially, I guess, chevron lace. You don't have to do it in stripes, but the pattern had stripes in the sample, and I really love the stripes, so I've done mine in stripes. And these are 2 of her colourways of her bourgeois base, which is a 4-ply, which is a merino silk blend. I don't know the full percentages, so I'll pop them on screen. The red is called Calcifer, and the green is called, I think it's Is There a Giant at the Door? This base is beautiful. I don't know if you can see. The reason I picked these 2 together, first off, they're absolutely my colours, but I don't know if you can see. Yeah. The green has some reddy bits in it, which you can't see on screen very well, but you can see in real life, and it's just beautiful. You can see there that gorgeous lace that goes all the way down. You've almost got a little bit of like a scalloped cuff, and the bottom's the same. If I stand up, can you see that? Whoa. Try not to fall over. Yeah, you just about can. If I come back, you'll be able to, won't you? Yeah, there you go. So you can see that a little bit better there. So it's got almost like a wobbly cuff. There were 2 sort of options in the pattern. When you're blocking it, if you pin it, you can get this to be really sort of pointy at the bottom. I didn't want that, so I didn't. And it's just got a nice curve to it. But this is gorgeous. This is a really flattering top. The colours I'm really pleased with the colours I chose. The Calcifer, I don't know if it'll come up in editing, it might not. It looks quite brown on the screen that I'm looking at, and it's not. It's very definitely a reddy, orangey, rusty colour. And the green's coming up quite well actually. It's maybe a little bit lighter than it's coming up on screen. But the combination of the 2 I think is just absolutely gorgeous, and it was really fun to knit. It also didn't use huge amounts of yarn, so I knit size 4, I think. I've got a bit better at, you can see, I mean you can probably see because you can see my boobs quite visibly. I've got a bit better at picking things that don't have a huge amount of positive ease at the bust, and picking a size based on my upper bust instead, and then I can put shaping in if I need. But I love the fit that I've got with this because of that. I've got a little bit of ease around the body. This is not, you know, there is some space there, but I've got a nicer fit across the bust. The one thing I will say, and I think it's because it's a circular yoke, is that your sleeves are not super tight, but I quite like that because it makes it a bit more wearable in the summer. And I have worn this quite a bit already. Let me just sit down because this is not comfortable, and then I'll tell you a bit more about it. You could possibly see there that it is a little bit short on me. It just rides up a little bit, so I find I've got to pull it down a bit, but that's not the end of the world. Ultimately, I didn't have any other yarn left. I'd already lengthened it. So the pattern said to do... I basically matched the amount of stripes that Hannah had in her sample, and then I did an extra 1 green and 1... Can I show you that without flashing at you? Yeah, so it was supposed to end... Trying really hard not to show you my bra. It was supposed to end here. This would have been green, and then this would have been my rib, and I added 1 more green, and then I did the rib at the bottom. Now, would I have added an extra bit of length had I had the option? Yes, I would. But I ran out of green. I had no green left. In fact, I don't know if I've got it here. I had a tiny little bit, but I didn't have enough to do another full repeat. And I really wanted the bottom to be in the red, sorry. And I also didn't want a big block of the reddy colour at the bottom. So this was the length that I got, but that was 2 skeins of red, 1 skein of green. So a relatively low yardage pattern. It's probably only about 220 something grams of yarn I used. I really would love to make more of these. I think one of the testers made one in a solid colour, which was beautiful. One made it in an advent from previous years, so she had one main colour and then each of the stripes was a different colour. That looked gorgeous as well. It would be a brilliant advent project. It would also be a brilliant sort of scrap mini skein project. And the one that really, really got me, Pearl by Pearl, who is I've got some stitch marker. I had one, I picked it up, put it in the bag. She is a yarn dyer, and she is also a stitch marker maker. She makes some absolutely beautiful, there we go, sort of little gemstone stitch markers. I don't know if you can see that, there you go. They're beautiful. I actually bought these as a birthday present to myself to go with the yarn for this, so I used them on this. I'm pretty certain she's also Hannah's mum. So she tested it as well, and she did the most beautiful version with a solid main colour, a 4-ply main colour, and a mohair strand for the second strand. And I just need to put a picture up of what this looks like, because I 100% want one like this. It is so good. So I absolutely want to make another one, at least another one. It's just beautiful, and it was really fun to knit. The stripes made it really, really sort of Moorish. Just one more. They're like 8 row stripes, so it didn't take long to get onto the next one, even when you're on the body, and it made the body go quite quick because you've got those stripes. I haven't worn it quite as much as I thought I would, mainly because it's so hot, because ultimately this is a merino silk blend. It's all right for warm weather. For hot weather, it's too hot. I can't wear it. So unfortunately it's not got as much as I would like, but so far it is wearing really well. I'll have to report back on that a bit more as I wear it more. There is a little bit of almost sort of halo to it. I can see that it is almost going a bit fuzzy with wear, but I don't think that necessarily looks bad. It's still got really nice definition to it. So yeah, really happy with this. Knit pattern exactly, except for that little bit that I added the length. Otherwise everything was completely the same. Oh no, one other thing. So I think this actually got changed in the pattern. I can't remember. I went down half a needle size or half a millimetre on the needle size for the ribbing, because I was a little bit slow to start on the test knit for this, and sometimes that works out quite well, because a few of the testers had cast on the needle size in the pattern and found that actually this was quite wide and it was a little bit weird fitting, and I know I prefer a slightly closer neck, so when I cast mine on I just went down half a millimetre and it worked perfectly. So I think I can't remember what size I used. I think this was a 3.75 and I feel like I might have used a 3 for the neckline, and then I think I used a 3.5 for the body ribbing, because I didn't want it to be too tight. So yeah, that was the only other one thing. And I know one of the other testers said, I met her at the Wool Monty, and I know she said I think she was going to go back and pop a little bit of elastic in it just to bring it in a bit, because she'd made it initially and it had gone a bit wider. So that's one thing to bear in mind. If you want a slightly tighter fitting, just go down the needle size at the collar. But otherwise, I found myself just looking at it. It does have short rows in the back, I should have said. I'll show you that in a minute, because I'm going to put on my other finished object. It does have short rows in the back to lift up the back neck, and yeah, really, really nice pattern. Let me change into the next finished object and show you that. This one I did not expect to have finished this week, and this is absolutely the reason that I didn't film sooner. So one sec. Okay, so I've got the next finished object on. Before I talk about this, let me just show you the short rows. So there you can see at the back. So this is the front. You just go straight from your ribbing, which is done in your main colour, which is the red for me, into your stripes. On the back, with my hair stuck in it, you can see, I think there, that there is a big chunk of short rows before you go into the stripes, and it really makes the back sit nicer. So that's that one done. I don't know if you can see, if I can now hold it up a bit closer. Yeah, you can sort of see it. It's got a bit of fuzzies on it, but it's not, from a distance you can't see that, and I don't think it's not felting. It's just a little bit more fuzzy than it was when I originally did it. Okay, let me just sort my hair out a bit. Okay, that's a bit better. Okay, next finished object. Did not expect to have this one done. This is the Ivy Top by Petite Knit, and it's really good. I'm annoyed that it's so good because it's Petite Knit. I kind of didn't want to like it so much, but I really, really do. So I have just had a long weekend off work. I had an extra day of leave to use. I had Friday off, Saturday and Sunday off, obviously, for the week. Maybe not obviously, but I had Saturday and Sunday off because I don't work weekends. And I fully intended Friday, I'm going to film. Brilliant. I've got an extra day off work. I've got a bit more time. I'm going to film my podcast. I'm going to get it out over the weekend. Sorry, my hair is shedding really badly at the moment. But it became clear on Friday that I was not far off finishing this. So I decided to finish this before I filmed, and I finished it yesterday, and then it blocked and dried. So I'm filming this early on Monday morning before I start work, which is why I'm talking about filming it later. But yeah, this is my finished Ivy top, and I am really happy with this. So I'm annoyed that I'm so happy with this, but I really like it. I think this has got a really nice place in my wardrobe. So this is a top down, I think it's a European contiguous shoulder construction, European set-in sleeve. You can see there, you start from the top. With this one, there are short rows, but I'm pretty certain you cast on all your stitches initially. I can't remember, I'm going to have to put this on screen if I've got it wrong. I'm pretty certain you cast on all your stitches initially, you knit a little bit of stockinette because you've got rolled edges on everything, and then you work some short rows. And then you start doing, it has definitely got short rows because it sits higher at the back. And I remember working short rows. But I think you've joined in the round already at that point. And then you start working, I think, properly in the round. You may have short rows here, I can't remember. And initially, so you've got 3 separate sections in this, and there's a few other project patterns that are like that. Petite Knit is not the only person to do this, but a construction like this, you have 3 different sections with 3 different increase rates. With 3 different, sorry. One of my friends has just sent me a picture of a new bag she's got, and it just says the shit show must go on, and I really like that. It's really funny. Excuse my language if you don't like swearing. I do swear quite a lot in real life. But that's just really, I've just seen it pop up on my watch and it's really amused me. Anyway, yeah, so you've got 3 sections with 3 different increase rates. So essentially what you do initially is you increase either side of this little saddle section that you can see there. You then start doing some increases just on the sleeve, which shapes this beautiful sort of set-in sleeve portion here. And then your final section is raglan increases, where you increase for both the body and the sleeve. So you can sort of see there, it goes this way, well, pretty much straight down there, and then it starts going this way. And have I knit something like this before? Yes, the Ekin sweater is like this. And I really, really liked it on that. However, the Ekin sweater is very oversized, and I made it a bit big as well. So I didn't really get this proper fit on the shoulders, but just look how it fits. It's so nice. I really like how it fits on me. So the reason I picked this pattern, let me just actually show you the full thing. This is what it's so nice. I say, I'm kind of annoyed. The one thing I'm not 100% sure on is the rolled edge. Oh, there goes a project. She says to do it tightly when you bind off, and I was nervous about doing it too tight and not being able to get it over my hips, but I think actually I should have probably done it a bit tighter, but lessons learned. But this is what it looks like overall. It's just a really good t-shirt. It's a really, really good, flattering, fitted t-shirt. The reason I picked this was particularly the yarn, really. So I'd got this is knit out of, look at that neckline, it's so good. You can see rolled edges, rolled hem, and it's quite a high neck, but I think that looks really, really nice on me. It's just a really nice fitting, clean, polished t-shirt. Let me sit down and talk to you about it properly. So I was quite driven by the yarn when choosing this pattern. The yarn I made this out of was Sanders Yarn Sunday in the shade Pine, which I think is one of the Petite Knit colourways. I didn't pick it because it was a Petite Knit colourway. I didn't have this pattern in mind when I picked it. I picked it because I really like the colour, and the colour works very, very well on me. I had originally picked this pattern, so I picked this yarn up when my husband and I, back in I feel like February, went over to Stockport to go to Tangled Yarn. They had an open day, a weekend open day, which they don't often open on weekends, I don't think, but we decided there is also a big shop for his hobby. One of the brands in that has their headquarters in Stockport, and it's not far away at all from Tangled Yarn, which is based in, I think it's Poynton, a little village in the countryside, slightly outside Stockport. So we did both. I went to Tangled Yarn, and then after that he went to his hobby shop. And when we were in there, I picked up 5 balls of this Sandnes Garn Sunday, which is 100% merino, fingering weight, 50 gram balls, intending to make the mixed rib cami with it. I changed my mind on that quite quickly because, first off, I really want to make the mixed rib cami. I love the mixed rib cami. At the time, I was a little bit nervous about how much I would wear it because I thought it would look really nice for work, but the reality is with short sleeves, I felt like I'd need to wear something over the top of it, and I don't have a blazer or a cardigan or something that would work really well with that. I think now, having the 30s top, I think I feel a bit more comfortable with that. However, also, I don't think I'd make it out of merino because I don't think it'd be very wearable in that. I think it needs to be in more summer yarn, maybe it's in frolic pure silk maybe or something like that. But I pivoted on that quite quickly. I feel like I'm going to sneeze. If I'm pulling a weird face, that's why, I'm sorry. And I think I talked about this last time. I decided to make the Barbro blouse by Knitting Frolic, which is a really beautiful pattern that I still would love to make. And I cast that on just before I went to India for work. And around that time, we were going through that really hard period with my husband's health. And that was a week where I was out of the country on a completely different continent in a completely different time zone. The longest I'd ever been away from him since we had been together, the longest I'd been away from the dogs. And that came at a period of time when he was just getting results from basically just getting results from the oncologist saying he needed to have a biopsy because they were concerned about some stuff that they'd found and they thought that he might have prostate cancer. He got those results as I landed in India and was being driven to the hotel. And I was there for 5 nights. Yeah, 5 nights including travel. So really difficult time. And whilst I had this project with me, the Barbro blouse with me, and I cast on and I was enjoying knitting on it, I came back and I just didn't want to touch it. And every time I thought about going near it, the emotion came with it. And it wasn't a good emotion. I did not have good connotations with that project at all. So I made the decision to frog it and to use the yarn for something else. And I actually ended up with this being a birthday cast on. So I know exactly when I cast this on. I cast this on the 27th of May on my birthday. And I settled on this pattern particularly because one of the recommended yarns for it is Sandnes Garn Sunday, so I knew that I would be able to get it. I didn't really want to hold it with anything, so I didn't think I was going to be able to, I didn't want to have a jumper because I didn't want to, I kind of just wanted to see how the yarn does on its own without holding mohair with it and stuff like that. And the IVT seemed like a perfect option for that. And yeah, I'm really happy with it. I had 5 balls, so I had 250 grams, which I think was about 1200 metres, something like that. 1,250 metres, I think, because I think it's about 250 metres per 50 grams. No, it's a bit less than that. Anyway, when I tell you I got this perfect with yarn, that's all I had left. That's all I had left. So essentially, because it's top down, I worked on it until the point where I joined my last ball. And then I put it on hold at that point on the body, came back and did the sleeves, which I did exactly to pattern. So this is like, I think it's like 30 rounds because you do three sets of, this is for my size, the exact number of decreases that I should do. And then I bound off, and then I came back and I put all the rest of the yarn that I had into the body until I had 2 grams left. Then I bound off, and this is what's left after that. So I think I've probably got about 1 gram. I've got this tiny little nugget. I'm very pleased with myself for that. The only other bit I had was ends that I've woven in. But I've used up every single scrap of this yarn except that tiny little bit, which I kept purely to show you, and then we'll just go into scrap cake or something. So I'm very pleased with that. And I love how it fits. I really love how it fits. It was enjoyable to knit. I really enjoyed having just a pure stockinette project, which is not like me, actually. It's not like me, but I also really love the shoulder fit, so much so that I've cast on something else, which is another petite knit pattern, but has this same shoulder fit. And yeah, I'm really happy with it. I literally only finished it yesterday. This is my first day wearing it. I've worn it this morning. I am fully aware I'm not going to be able to wear it all day because we're going back into another heat wave in the UK. We're going back over like 34, 35, 36 degrees this week. This is not going to happen. This is going to be too warm. But I think it's going to be very, very wearable. And I'd love another one of these in a cotton or something like that, I think. Or another one of something with this same kind of style and fit. I made size XL. I added length. I just kept going basically until the length that I could get out of the yarn because I knew I was going to need it. But otherwise, I've done everything exactly to pattern. I've done the rolled edges. The one thing I've got weird is this arm has quite a bit more space than this one. And I don't know how much of that is because I've bound off more tightly on one of them than the other. And the other one might just be because I'm right-handed. This arm is going to be a little bit bigger than the other one. So yeah, I don't know. Some of it's probably just going to be my in unsymmetry, non-symmetrical nature of anybody's body. I think one arm's probably a bit bigger than the other, so I think that's probably part of it, and then I might have spanned off a little tighter as well, but it doesn't actually bother me. I will see how I get on with the rolled edge. I may go back and do it with the tighter bind off. I'm going to keep this on for the rest of the podcast because this is what I was wearing before. We're 40 minutes in. I've not even finished talking about my finished object, so let's very quickly talk about my half-finished object, which I'm not going to dwell on much more. I finished the first of these socks for my dad. This is in some Felt Fusion yarn. I will pop a link to last month's podcast, where I talk a bit more about the fibre content of this yarn because it's got a really unusual fibre content, but I'm really happy with it. I'm not super happy with how the stripes have gone over the heel, but I knew that was going to happen with the heel flap and gusset, but I like the fit of them the best, so that's what I've done. I have cast on the second. Where is it? I think it's in here. Yes, it is. But I haven't done much. I've just done the cuff and a couple of rounds, so that is progressing. And the other thing to show you as well on the sock thing is that I have progressed my husband's socks a bit more on the same vein of socks. I've progressed my husband's socks a bit more. When I showed you this last time, I needed to fix a dropped stitch, and I fixed those, and I am working now the toe. This looks really, really strange. So this one I've done I think it's a short row heel, and I'm just making this out of some scraps of leftover self-striping, and I'm working the toe, and I've decided actually just to do the toe in the self-striping because I've got quite a lot of self-striping left. The reason this one is stalled and I haven't finished it when it wouldn't take me long is I really hate DPNs. I don't know how any of you knit socks on them. I find they hurt my hands, they're slow. I would usually do it on Magic Loop, but when my friend and I were at the Midlands Wool Festival, I decided I wanted some 2mm. I was going to get long circular needles with a long cable to be able to do the toe, because obviously I knit most of my socks on short circulars. It's quite hard to do all of the toe on short circulars. They didn't have any, so I thought I'd get some DPNs and I thought it'd be fine. And yeah, no, I hate knitting on DPNs, so I will use them for the toe. I don't know what I'm going to do. If anybody's interested in a set of 2mm DPNs, let me know. You can have them. I'll buy a long circular instead. Because they're not my favourites. But yeah, I've got the Knit Pro Zings, which I do like. I just find these so unwieldy to work with, so yeah, I don't know. But anyway, that's progressing, and hopefully I'll have the second sock on the needles in the not too distant future, and most of that will be knit on small circulars, so I go a lot faster on them. Okay, quick update on the Jethro cardigan, which is in here. This has progressed a bit since you saw it last time. I've actually started joining some panels, so this is the front. This is going to be the front panel, one of the front panels. I joined a bit and then realised that I wanted it a bit longer. So essentially, normally the pattern has you join 4 squares for the front panels. You will notice I've added a 5th row at the bottom. I want it a bit longer, so I need to make some more squares, and that's the point at which I've not stalled, but I've slowed down a little bit. And I'll come back to that and I'll do that. So I need to make some more squares, and then I need to join another front panel and a big back panel. Then I join them all together, and then the rest of the trimmings on this is a pattern by Tanis Lavallee. The rest of the trimmings on this are done in knit. So I'm really excited about that. Given the amount of time I've been talking for already, I'm not going to go into huge amounts of detail on this because there isn't massive amounts to show. If you want more detail on it, I'll pop a link back to the previous episode and you can go and check that out. Okay, right, there. Everything else to show you is new because obviously I've finished quite a lot. So let's go through, do you know what, let's talk about this one first because it's linked to one of my finished objects. I was so happy with this that I decided, first off, I was on a bit of a kick of, I've gone on a kick of finishing off frogging older things. It's not always going to be so quick. But along the vein of this and the yarn that this had come from, I decided to frog my Cirrha sweater, sorry, I've been saying it wrong all this time. That was a pattern that was bought for me by Knitted by Whitney, my lovely friend Whitney of the Knitted by Whitney podcast. And I cast on using this really gorgeous yarn that my husband had got me, which is covered in dog hair. This stuff attracts dog hair like no tomorrow. He got me a sweater quantity of this for Christmas. This is Alina X Navita DK, which is a really interesting blend, woolly wool. And I was knitting the Cirrha sweater in this. Now, there was a couple of things on this. Firstly, again, unfortunately, it had very much gone into that same kind of area as the Barbaro blouse. Despite the fact that I hadn't taken it with me, it had those sort of negative connotations with it. I don't really know why, but it did. So I wasn't finding myself drawn to pick it up. And the other thing was I was concerned about the armhole depth on that pattern. I don't know if it's the pattern or if it's just me, because I think I said last time, I've got a bit of extra wingage here. Everybody likes that term, so we'll use that. I have not the smallest of arms, but this armhole depth felt really small. And I tried it on once I'd ripped it off the needles. I decided to frog it back because I was too concerned about it, and I just wasn't being driven to pick it up either because of those sort of emotions that were linked to it. But I really wanted to use up this yarn, and ideally I want to use it this year because it was a Christmas present, so I'd really like to have it used before we go back to Christmas again. So that was something I wanted to kind of prioritise. When I'd taken it off the needles, I actually put the sweater all over my head and tried it on, and they were tight. And I think then having added sleeves and added a neckline, which was going to pull it up a bit, I think I would have struggled. So I'm actually quite glad that I pulled it back. I had done some gauge maths with that sweater, so it is possible, because I hadn't considered the row gauge, it's possible that my row gauge was off and I just hadn't got the right kind of depth that you're supposed to have. It also was a drop shoulder, so it would have been quite easy just to add additional depth, but I hadn't realised that until I'd gone past that point. And again, with those sort of negative connotations, I decided just to rip it out and cast on something new. And given at this point, when I cast this on, I had tried this on a couple of times with most of the length on the body and realised how much I loved this shoulder fit. So I really wanted to try something else like that. And I thought, do you know what? I'm just going to go for something that I know is going to fit me like that. And I'm going to go for another petite knit pattern. So I've cast on, the Aros sweater. Aros? I'm not sure how you're supposed to say it. I will pop a picture up. And what I might do is pop up a picture of the particular Ravelry project that sold me on this one. So the Aros sweater is intended to be striped. I mean, it's similar to the Sunburst tee. She just gives you a rough guide of how to do the stripes if you want to do stripes like in the pattern, but you don't have to do it in stripes, and I'm not doing it in stripes, I'm just doing it in solid in this main colour. But it has that same, you can see there, it's got that same shoulder construction. So it's got the saddle to begin with, it's then got your sleeve increases, and I've just started the raglan increases, so I'm sort of, if it was on here, I'm sort of at this point. It's got a lower yoke, a lower neckline, because it actually has ribbing added after the fact, rather than it being a higher neckline like this, and I think that'll look really, really nice. And it was this one particular project on Ravelry. There was a couple, but there was one particular one that she'd made it just in a solid colour, and I just was like, yep, I want that. Because I think I've thought all along, I want this yarn to be in something plain, because I really want the yarn and the colour, which is utterly beautiful. This is in the burgundy shade. I really want this to be the star. I really, really want it to just shine. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this. I have been loving knitting on it. The yarn really, really attracts dog hair. So I'm sat here plucking bits of dog hair out of it. But it's so beautiful, and I'm really excited to have this finished. This is obviously not going to get worn anytime soon with the heat that we're having. Oh, builders. It's not going to get worn anytime soon with the heat that we're having, but yeah, I'd like to have this done for autumn. And I'd really like to have this yarn used. So we have in here the yarn that I've frogged. Oops, just chucked some of it on the floor. Yeah, we have it in here, the yarn that I've frogged. And a bowl that I'd started working from, a cake that I'd started working from, and then I've got another 2 or 3 skeins. I think I've got quite a lot, so I've got plenty of yarn in there, and that's been worked away on quite steadily. Okay, one other project to show you that's completely new is a crochet project. This is for my husband. So my husband has just got a new car. He's very excited about it. My husband hasn't driven for a long time due to an accident that he had when he was a bit younger. Not his fault, but very traumatic, and has put him off driving for a long time. And recently he's decided he's wanted to get back into that. So he's bought himself a car, and he's loving driving again. He's getting back into that. He's building confidence. And he'd said, maybe I could make him some seat covers for the car. Now, before anybody says, I've done quite a lot of research on this. I know there are things I need to be cautious of with that. First off, I know I needed to make it sit quite well so that he's not slipping around on the seat. Second off, I know there are things like mechanisms for moving the seat, airbags, stuff like that, so it's not going to go all the way around. But I'm going to do him some seat covers that are then going to sort of elastic underneath, and I'm going to fasten them so they can come off quite easily, but I'm going to make sure they don't obscure anything, cause any issues, anything like that. But I'm going to make him some seat covers for the car. So we looked through some options, and I'll pop a picture on the screen of what we found that he really liked. He didn't like the colours, but he liked the picture. I will give the caveat that this is off Pinterest, and I'm fairly certain this image is created with AI. But I can't find another alternative of it. This was the one that we saw that he liked. There is now a digger there. Great. Yeah, there you go. That's the light reflecting off the digger. And he decided he really liked that, which was African flower hexagons. But he wanted a different colour scheme, and he picked the colour scheme. So we picked some colours. We ordered some colours off of Wool Warehouse, and I ordered some Yarn Smiths. I can't remember what it's called. In fact, I've got it in here, so I don't know why. Yarn Smiths cotton DK in 7 colours. I think 6 colours plus this, which is my main colour. And I've started crocheting some hexagons, and I've started joining some together. Please excuse the ends. It would look much better if I'd weave my ends in, wouldn't it? I've started joining them together. African flower squares. I've never done them before, hexagons. So fun. And I love how these colours come out. They're very 70s, but they're very my husband. He loves them. And I'm using this oatmeal colour to join, which I think is actually called Parchment. I'm using the same Parchment to join. And then I'll show you all the colours because I've got a couple of balls of each of them. So we have black. Very self-explanatory. We have copper. We have scissors, that's not it, is it? Apple green. You wanted bright green. It's not quite as neon as it's coming up on screen there, but we wanted a bright green. We have that one. Parchment you've seen. Yellow, I think is literally primrose yellow. Primrose yellow. This is antique gold, I think, is it? Yeah, antique gold. Beautiful mustardy colour. And where's the blue? There. Vintage teal. That's this colour scheme. And that's my main colour that I'm joining, which is Parchment. This is a DK weight, 100% cotton, 106 metres per 50 grams. It's really nice. I'm really enjoying working with it. It's a DK cotton. I will say not all colours are made equal. The grey, the yellow, the blue, really soft. The yellow is far and away the softest. The green, the orange, the brown, gold. The green, the orange, the black. Oh my God. Are middle of the road. They're totally fine. The red, really dry, quite hard to work with, which is annoying because the red was very prominent in the colour scheme he sent me. So I've got two balls of each of the colours, 6 of my main joining colour, and 4 of the red because the red is quite prominent in the colour scheme that he wanted. The red is hard to work with. So I think that's probably something to do with the dyeing process and how it impacts the yarns. But yeah, I've got loads of these. I've just started joining some last night because I've got now enough to make the seat bottom for one of his seats. And I was just playing about with colour organisations and stuff. I think that one is my favourite. I think that's just gorgeous. I love that. And the African flower motif, really, really fun to crochet. I'm doing it on a 3.5mm hook. The yarn recommends 4mm. I went down 0.5mm because I wanted it to be quite dense. I didn't want to go any further than that because I didn't want to hurt my hands. But yeah, they've got very little stretch to them. And I picked cotton intentionally because it would be less slippy and slidey and would be more sturdy. So yeah, it's going to be ongoing. I'd like to get this done relatively quick for him. I'm just using a slip stitch join, which I think is quite nice. I quite like how it looks. It gives almost, oh, there goes some yarn. It gives almost a ridge in between. And this has been quite nice to have a break from knitting, just to pick up some crochet and to do that. And I'm quite happy with that. I think it looks lovely. So yeah, that's going to be ongoing. Like I say, I'm being very careful about how I attach them to the car seat. I won't be doing steering wheel cover or anything like that because it's not safe. I do take car safety very seriously. I'm not going to do anything that's an issue. And if I'm going to try it on the passenger seat, if it's slippy on the passenger seat, they're not going on the driver's seat. It's as simple as that. Okay, that's that one done. 4 more projects to show you, and I'm nearly an hour in. Let's touch on this one quite quickly because this one is one that's just come back out of hibernation. First off, I wanted to mention these beautiful bags. You've seen this one before. This is from makes.bymia on Instagram. She has a Ko-fi store. I now have 3 of her bags and I love them. And she's currently running a 10% sale. She's got some utterly gorgeous fabrics. I really love how they're made. So I've got 2 of her zipper pouches, which are like this. And I have one big boy, which is this one. This is a bit of a departure for me, this sort of fabric, but I just thought it was lovely and I really like the size. So this has got a big drawstring top and it's got one of those tops where you can actually pull the top out and it's got a bit of a bigger top. So it's got this lovely canvas drawstring, boxed bottom, quilted. They always come with this little tag with this on. Do they? No, that does, but the smaller ones don't. But yeah, I've got 3 of them. This is my absolute favourite. I'm going to show you this in more detail in a minute because it's got a project in it to talk about. But I couldn't, when she put this up, I couldn't not get this. This is absolutely my favourite bag I own. It's beautiful. Anyway, let me talk about what's in this. So I said I was in the mood for bringing old projects out of hibernation and either frogging them or working on them. I'm so sorry if the washing machine's picking up. It probably is. It's draining. After I'd finished my ivy top, I decided I wanted to try and finish my outline tee, which I started, I think, earlier in the year because this was a Christmas present, this yarn. Again, Christmas present yarn, would like to use it before we go to Christmas again. This is a bottom-up tee pattern, where currently it looks like a plain stockinette tee, but you do have some dropped stitches that you work in the end, and essentially what you do to be able to do that is you create these sort of, can you see there, the yarn over holes that you create at the bottom, and then at the end I'm going to drop them and they're going to run down. And this is using some Arcane Fiberworks yarn that my mother-in-law got me. My husband technically told her what to get and she got me 3 skeins of it. This is in the shade, I think it's Rusty Mountain Rails. It's really beautiful. Greys and browns and rusty colours. It's really gorgeous, and as always their yarn is really, really nice to work with. I'm alternating skeins, so I have 2 going and I've got 1 more upstairs. This, I think, I've been working on this occasionally in the background, so I think it's quite a bit further on than where I last showed you, but even like yesterday I was working on it whilst we were watching TV in the evening, and I've done a good inch there of stockinette. I think when I showed you it last time I was probably more like down here, so I have done quite a lot. I've got a lot more to go. I gave it a measure. I've done a bit more since, but I gave it a measure yesterday before I did some more work on it, and I think I was at like 22 centimetres, and I need sort of 44 for my underarm, so I'm about halfway through the body. I've got lots of yarn. I'd love to have this done in the not too distant future because I'd love to wear it. But yeah, plugging away on this one, hopefully get through the body in the not too distant future. This is now going to be my meeting knitting now this is gone, because having a purely stockinette project to work on in that was really nice. So that is, it's living in here. It's too small, so it's going to need to move into a bigger bag, but that's the next one. The next 3 projects are all tests. I know one of them's a small test, one of them's very well progressed. Let's talk about that first. This is in a this is not really a project bag, but I got it from a little shop in Sheffield about a year ago and I loved it and I've kept it since. Are you going to eat that? I just really liked it. It made me laugh. It's just like a little bag for life kind of thing. But I use it as a project bag and that's what I bought it for. This beautifulness that's in here is a test for Katie of Wandering Star Knits. It's been on the needles for a little bit, but I haven't shown it before, I think just because I haven't done much on it. This is covered in dangly bits. This is going to be the Arundel Street pullover. I think it's Arundel Street, Arundel, don't know. There is an Arundel Street car park we park in all the time in Sheffield, but it's not the same one. This is not the same one that she's gone for. This is beautiful. So this is a pattern that's currently in testing. It's got 2 options for the neckline. I am just doing the plain V-neck. There is a shawl neck in it as well, which is beautiful. This is technically, hers is done in Aran weight yarn, but it's quite a big gauge. It's at like 12 stitches per inch, I think, or something like that. So I tried to get gauge with an Aran weight, but the yarn she's using is, I think it's Golden Hour Knitwear, which is not very accessible over here because it's overseas. But it's a very light, airy, lofty Aran weight, and she's getting a much bigger gauge with it than I could. So I'm actually using a chunky weight yarn, and I'm using James C. Brett Marble Chunky, which I've ripped in the shade It's the 70s, which isn't it just? This is gorgeous. I think this is really, really lovely. I love the colours of it. I'd managed to just about get gauge with some Aran weight held with a mohair, and I was going to go with that, but I wasn't super happy with it. And then I was just wandering around Hobbycraft a few weeks back, and I saw these, and I thought, yes, this please. And I'm really happy with it. So that's the back. You can see the stripes a bit better on the back. This is 100% acrylic, but I think that has a place. And I don't know of a chunky weight yarn where you can get that kind of striping. I also do not know of one you can get at that kind of price point. So yeah, really, really enjoying this. It currently looks like it's got a very deep V, but but it's got a neckline to add, which will bring it in quite a bit. I think it is also rolling because it is a stockinette edge. It's got beautiful raglan increases because it's got this big chunky raglan. I think that really suits it with it being such a chunky weight sweater. And I am working down the body. I've done quite a chunk of the body because it's on 7mm needles, is it? 6.5? 6mm needles. Chunky weight yarn flies, especially now it's just round and round. I was working on it the other day for like an hour and a bit, and you can see there's my stitch marker, and that's how much I did. The stitch marker, the top is actually up here because it's one of those with a dangly bit on it. But I love the colours. It's very 70s. I think this will be a really nice throw over in winter, and I can't wait. It's due, testing it's due in the middle of September, I think. I will have it done well in advance of that. It's very quick to work on. I've got, this is the remains of my first ball of yarn. So James C. Brett Marble Chunky is 200 gram balls, 312 meters. I've got 3 balls of it, so I've got plenty. I probably won't need all of the third ball, I don't think. But yeah, that's that one. And then 2 more to show. Is that it? Yeah, 2 more to show. Okay. So in this other Makes By Mia bag, my big one, I was asked if I would do another test knit for Knitting for Olive. I'll be completely honest, there's not often I'm going to say no to that because they sponsor yarn. So I have been very lucky this time to try. Ooh, is it going to show? The Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino. This is lovely. I will say the colour range isn't great in this. The merino and the pure silk have much better colour ranges than the cotton merino, but I've gone for the shade Dusty Artichoke in the end. I ummed and ahed and I went back and forth. This is going to be, it's called the Holly Blouse. I've cast this on. It's got a 10-week deadline on it. I've cast it on and I'm going to keep working away on it because it is a bottom-up lace blouse. What is going on here? I've got this all twisted. There we go. It's a bottom-up lace blouse, all over lace blouse, so I'm going to keep working away on it. But you can just sort of see the lace is starting to appear there. I will pop a picture in of what it's going to look like. I think this is really beautiful. And I'm loving working with the cotton merino. It's on 3.25mm needles I was on to get gauge. And yeah, I think it's going to be really nice, really wearable. It's going to take me a while to knit because it is all over lace. So yeah, we're gonna keep going on that. But I love the stitch definition. I love the yarn. The yarn is really interesting so far to work with. It is a very thin, light fingering, excuse me swearing at you, like Knitting for Olive's yarns are. So it's 250 meters per 50 grams, so it is a very light fingering. And I think it's a 70% cotton, 30% merino. So I'm interested to see first off how it wears as a summer yarn. That colour's so good. And also how it washes, how it wears overall, that sort of stuff. It took a while with the bottom up. It took me ages to do this sort of, but it's got a rolled edge like the Ivy top has. So yeah, I've been making sure I do like half an hour a day on this since I've cast it on. Haven't done my half an hour today, so I need to get that done. But I'm really pleased with this. I think it's going to look really nice in my wardrobe. I think it's going to be very wearable with a little camisole underneath. Really wearable. And yeah, really enjoying working on that. And then the last one in this beautiful bag. What was that noise? Oh, well, that was, sorry about that. Is another test for Nancy of Knit Sip Happy. I've saved the best till last. I actually have. That's intentionally what I've done. I very cheekily a while back reached out to Nancy and said, how does one get on your testing list? Because I would love to test for her. Nancy, if you're unfamiliar, is a fellow podcaster on here. Highly recommend you go check out her channel. Based over in Canada. I was hoping to meet her at Big Flock this year. Unfortunately, I didn't make it to Big Flock, so I didn't get to meet her. But I have said next time she comes over to the UK, let me know when and where she will be, and I'd love to meet her and have a glass of wine and knit for a bit. So yeah, she's also a prolific sock designer. I love her sock patterns. I'm gonna have to shut that door. That might be a bit better in sound. I've shut the dog out for a little bit, but it might be better in terms of sound. She's a very prolific sock designer. I love her sock patterns. I've knit 1 and I've got I think about 3 more in my Ravelry to knit. I just haven't got round to them yet. But she is about to release her first non-sock pattern, or it's in testing. Normally she does I think she does closed tests. She has a tester pool that she goes to, and I think occasionally she does size external calls if she doesn't have enough testers. But that doesn't happen very often because the tests are very popular. So this one was the first one for a while. She's had to do a test call outside of Ravelry, outside of a tester group, because it's a non-sock. I think that's probably where it's come from. But I was very lucky to be chosen because of that, and I think it was purely down to speed. I think she'd said she picked the first like 6 people that applied. I saw it, I went and applied straight away, and I got myself in through that, I think. But yeah, this is going to be the Stitchery Sampler Cowl. Any money, that dog's going to come in a minute because he's going to decide he wants to know what's going on. She has this, I think she has some Stitchery Sampler socks, and the point is that I think it's the same with the socks. It's a plain cowl with these multiple different motifs that you can pick, and every however many rows you do another one of these motifs. There is a single loop or a double loop cowl. I'm doing the double loop. In the single loop, you have a main colour and you have a contrast colour, or you have multiple contrast colours. If I've seen some of the testers do it with minis, you do one round of that, you join it. The double loop, I'll see if I can put a picture up of Nancy's sample because I'll explain it better than I will. You start off with your colours this way. You essentially have two 100-gram skeins of 2 colours. Yeah, one skein of each colour. Is that what I mean? One skein of each colour. And for the first half, you do it this way around. For the second half, you flip your colours and you do this colour as your main colour and your main colour as your sampler bits. So I am very much enjoying this. I am using some completely random black from my stash that I think actually might have come from Temu. I'm not loving working with this, I'll be honest. I bought it years ago. If it is from Temu, I bought it years ago and I was going to do a video about it. I would say save your money. This is supposedly cashmere. It's not cashmere, there's no way it's cashmere. And it also, of course I'm not going to be able to find a bit here, but it's quite thick and thin. It doesn't look it until you're knitting with it, and then there are some bits where I've come round and I'm like, that stitch is really thin, like. But I wanted a black, and this is like black. There is no variation to that at all, and that's what I wanted, because I really wanted to use it with this skein that I got from the Wool Monty, which is from Unseen Yarns, which is, I think it's called Zombie. It's definitely called Zombie, and it's a green, red, there is some black in it, I think, actually, variegated skein. It's very, very bright and in your face, and I love it. And I really wanted a high contrast with that, so I really wanted a black, and this was the only black that I had in my stash. I've got one single skein of black, which I think is Symphony Terror, but that's only got about 385 metres in it, and Nancy actually says you want a fingering weight skein with a decent yardage to be able to make sure you've got enough. So I went for this one instead, because I really wanted that high contrast. So for half of it, it's going to be this way around, and then for the other half, this is going to be my main, and that's going to be my sampler bits. And I'm really, really enjoying it. It's really moreish because it's just however many rows of stockinette, and then you do like I mean, this one was 4 rounds, this one was 3 rounds. They're never much more than that. So it's a nice little simple pop of something, and then you're on to the next bit. I don't know if you can see, yeah, you can. This Temu yarn, this black yarn, whatever it is quite thin. It's quite a thin fingering weight. But I don't mind that in this, because this is, first off, it's a cowl that is a tube, so you can see there, it is a tube. So essentially when it's used, it's going to be used like that, and you can see there straight away, you can see through it much less when you're doing that. Also, because I'm doing the double layer, this will be wrapped around twice, so by the time I'm actually using it and wearing it, I'm going to have 4 layers of fabric, so I'm not going to get any wind coming through this. I think it's going to be really, really nice and warm, and a good way to use it. I've got loads of this. I think it's 50-gram balls. They are little donuts. I don't know how much yardage I've got in that, but if it's fingering weight, then it's probably about 200 metres, and I've probably got about 6 or 7 of them, so I've got quite a lot. And then I've got 1 skein of this Zombie, which I'm hoping will be enough. But yeah, I really, really love the contrast of these. I popped a stitch marker on when I started working on it earlier, to keep track of where I'm at. But I'm hoping that this will be a relatively quick knit, actually. This has been sort of travel knitting, so like I had to go and get the car valet the other day. We're selling the old car, now my husband's got a new car. So I took this, instead of a sock, I took this as my travel project, and I got quite a bit done on it. I take it when I'm waiting to pick my husband up from somewhere, when I'm waiting to pick any sort of parcel up, anything like that, waiting for anything to be done to the cars. We've had a lot of that recently, because it's really easy, particularly if you're in a stockinette bit, it's really, really easy to just knit away on it. And even if you're not in a stockinette bit, these samplers are, for the most part, so far at least, fairly simple. So knits and purls, this one had some knits, purls and slip stitches. They're not particularly complicated stitch patterns, but it just breaks it up really nicely. And I'm really enjoying the process of knitting it. So yeah, this again I think is due in mid-September. I'm going to keep working away on it, and it will be done in the not too distant future. that's everything for now that I've got to show you, and I think that's enough. In terms of what you can expect coming up, there's a couple of things. Oops, my ring's got the wrong way around and it's probably going to have caught my sweater. There's a couple of things that you can expect me to be casting on imminently. I am working on one more test knit, which is the Moss Ridge sweater for Sophie of the Knit Pearl Girl. I wanted to share that I was really lucky to be successful in that. I'm not sharing the progress of that because it's a gift for somebody who may well watch these and I don't want to spoil it. So that's not going to get shown. I am still very close now to finishing the sample of the Elton sweater that I'm making for Irish Artisan Yarns. That will be finished. I'm putting it out into the world. That's going to be finished in the next week. It took a little bit for Tara to have the time to measure her Elton and get it back to me and tell me what length she needs. Now I've got that, I'm flying on that. So that will be shown as a finished object in the next podcast. And I am making a start on some other gift knitting for winter, for Christmas. I've got some stuff for my husband that I'd like to make. Some yarn arrived the other day from Arcane 5 Works again. I'm going to be making a hat and scarf for him in a colourway that he really likes. So yeah, they're going to be this week. I think they're going to be cast on. In terms of content, I've got a couple of things I want to film for you. I want to film an autumn knitting plans. I'm going to get that done relatively soon. I'd like to get that out in August. I also would like to film a sort of refresh of my video that I've done. I've done it a couple of years in a row where I talk about my favourite knitting YouTubers, because there is a lot of different YouTubers on there now that are either new this year or that I just hadn't found this year, last year when I did this video. So I'd like to do that. And I've got a couple of other ideas in the works, but I'm planning on having a podcast episode like this at the end of every month, so you can see like a monthly wrap up of what I've been knitting and what I am now knitting, and then we'll have other stuff in between as and when my health, my energy, my time allows me to film them. But yeah, lots of interesting stuff coming. Thank you for sticking with me, guys. I know I'm a bit intermittent here at the moment, but whenever I do come and do it, I really, really enjoy it. So thank you for being here and supporting me and continuing to watch, even though I'm a bit flaky. And on that note, I will leave you to go and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you're having a fantastic afternoon, evening, weekend, whatever it is, wherever you are. Oh, and I'm going to go and take a hay fever tablet because the one I took this morning is clearly wearing off. And I will catch you on the next one. Thank you very much for watching again. Bye, guys.